Hello, Internet. This is Sophia, the Red Angel, talking about all sorts of things on my channel. But one thing that I like to do on this channel is expose fallacies. And fallacies made by religious apologists can be among those that are especially fun to expose. So when I saw a video titled "Atheist Storms Out After Refusing to Give an Argument" on a channel called Cross-Examined, I figured I have got to respond to this one. The title of the video very evidently makes two allegations on the atheist in question. One is that said atheist refused to give an argument, the other being that the atheist stormed out. While my response may touch on the allegation that the atheist in question stormed out, an allegation that at very best is an exaggeration and at worst is a flat-out lie, the focus of my review is on whether or not the atheist really did refuse to give an argument, and if applicable, whether or not any of the arguments that the atheist gave were adequately answered. The video that I review is an exchange between CrossExamine.org's founder and president, Dr. Frank Turek, on one side, and on the other side, an individual named Scott, whom the video description only identifies as an atheist at Fresno State, and whom I only know is named Scott, because that name comes up at some points in the video. But let's get on in this video.
There's a lot of things that you did in this talk, in this presentation. You kind of gish-galloped over a bunch of things, and there's a lot of logical fallacies. I don't want to address all of them. I can't.
Yes, that is pretty much what a gish-gallop does and how it works. It is when you throw so many arguments at someone that no matter how weak those arguments are, your interlocutor will be overwhelmed if they try to refute them because of the sheer number of arguments that they have to refute. Now, is Scott correct in accusing Dr. Turek of committing a gish gallop? Unfortunately, I cannot answer that question definitively. This video shows me nothing of the lecture up to the point where this accusation is levied, nor does the video description link to anything that could potentially resolve this. As a matter of fact, I do not even know the name of the lecture that this accusation followed up on. For whatever reason, CrossExamined.org has not made any such contextual information readily accessible. That said, I can state that I strongly suspect that the accusation is in fact correct, simply as Christian apologists tend to gish-gallop a lot. But I do not know definitively that this is not the one time that one of them got falsely accused of that contemptible malconduct.
The biggest problem I notice is you mentioned a few times, and kind of disparagingly, this idea of an atheistic worldview, and then you attack that. That's a great straw man, because atheism is not a worldview. Because atheism is just the rejection of the claim of theism, which tells you nothing about how that person thinks about social rules, who they want to vote for, whether they like cake more than they like pie. It's not a worldview.
Well, yes, it is true that atheism is not a worldview. But to be fair, it's not exactly for the reason that Scott says. Rather, it is because the term atheism does not refer to any specific worldview, but rather to an entire range of worldviews. Worldviews that have little in common with one another besides one common trait, that none of them involve a god or gods. This can cover anything from Marxist Hegelians to naturalistic rational skeptics to some of the law of attraction folk, and even countless other worldviews that share the trait of not involving God or gods, but which otherwise are radically different worldviews from one another.
Okay, let me ask you a question about this, Scott. Here's the proposition. God exists. Do you agree with that proposition? Do you disagree with that proposition? Or you don't know?
Okay, Dr. Turek, you have said it yourself. The proposition is God exists. Your proposition is not, I believe God exists, nor is it, Scott believes that God exists. Your proposition is, God exists. And in continuing to review your video, I am going to hold you to that. If you switch to another proposition without being transparent and clear about the fact that you are moving on to a different proposition, then I am going to call you out on that. So don't get any funny ideas.
I don't know.
Okay, so you're an agnostic then.
Well, agnosticism addresses knowledge, right? Theism addresses a belief claim. So I would be agnostic atheist. I do not know that God does or does not exist, but I do not believe that he does.
Okay, well...
Okay, so the proposition is God exists. Let's label the proposition X. So there it is. X equals God exists. Does Scott believe the proposition X? No, he does not, because he does not believe that God exists. Does he believe the proposition not X, i.e. the negation of X? Also no, because he also does not believe that God does not exist. Therefore, with regards to the proposition that we have labeled X, Scott holds no belief. Seems pretty simple, right? But apparently not simple enough for Dr. Turek, as we are about to see.
You still believe that you don't know whether God exists, so it's still a belief.
It's a lack of belief.
No, you believe that it's true that you don't know that God exists.
Ah! Did I not say that I would call Dr. Turek out if he tried to pull such a switcheroo? And now that he did that, it is time for an installment of Fallacy Exposed. And your fallacy is the Mott and Bailey fallacy. And this is a fallacy that I love to expose, but apparently not as much as Christian apologists love to commit this fallacy. This is a fallacy that you commit if you try to defend a controversial, difficult to defend position known as a Bailey by conflating it with a different position known as a Mott that is easy to defend and might not even be controversial at all. At the very onset here, Dr. Turek articulated a proposition that I have labeled X, and it would be difficult for him to deny it because thanks to him uploading it to YouTube, we have footage of him defining it.
Here's the proposition. God exists.
He has conflated proposition X, however, with another position, which I will label Y. And proposition Y is the proposition that Scott knows whether or not God exists. Scott clearly has no belief at all with regard to X, but he does hold the position not Y, or the negation of proposition Y. Dr. Turek's Mott is the claim that Scott holds a belief with regards to one position, proposition Y, but just as proposition X and proposition Y are different propositions, proving that Scott has a belief with regards to Y does nothing to prove Dr. Turek's Bailey, which is that Scott holds a belief with regards to position X. In short, proving that Scott holds a belief as to whether or not he knows whether or not God exists does nothing to demonstrate that Scott holds a belief as to whether or not God does exist. So, nice try, Dr. Turek, but I ain't fallen for it, and neither should anyone else. But the video goes on.
When I'm debating an atheist, whether it's Christopher Hitchens, Michael Shermer, Jeffrey Lauder, whoever it is,
Sure.
When we set up a debate, I say, let's debate this. What better explains reality, theism or atheism? Or if you want to call atheism materialism, whatever you want to call it.
But the point is, theism is not trying to explain reality.
Yes, we are.
No, that's not what it is. I mean,
then I have the burden of proof to say I think these things are best explained by theism. And the atheist has the burden of proof to say, okay, I see those things exist. Here's my explanation for why they exist.
And now it is time for another installment of Fallacy Exposed. And this time, your fallacy is false equivalence, which is a fallacy that you commit when you take two opposing positions and present them as being on equal footing when in fact they are not. Here Dr. Turek says that a debate with an atheist is on whether theism or atheism better explains the existence of the universe that we are in. But this is not really a sound way to frame the debate. This is because theism, especially when used to explain the existence of our universe, is a fairly specific model. It basically says that our universe exists because God created it. Different religions and different sects within religions may vary on some of their finer details of how God supposedly created the universe. But the basic idea, God somehow having created it all, is pretty much the same. But as I mentioned in this video, atheism is not a singular worldview. It is an umbrella for all worldviews that do not involve a god or gods. So really, Dr. Turek is asking us to weigh the specific idea that God created the universe against the entire range of explanations for the existence of the universe that do not involve a god or gods. This includes everything from the 2 or 3 possible explanations that have been proposed by serious cosmologists, all the way to the most fringe quackpot explanations out there that, for all its quackiness, does not involve a god or gods. And even that is just covering the atheistic explanations for our universe that people have actually thought of. But for every one of those, there are probably multiple explanations that have not been thought of that do not involve a god or gods. These possibilities, too, range all the way from those that cosmologists could have come up with, but have not done so, or at least have not done so yet, all the way to ones that the French quackpots haven't invented yet, but could potentially pull out of their behinds sometime in the future, which, again, for all their quackiness, doesn't involve a god or gods. So really, asking whether theism or atheism is a better explanation for our universe is pitting one specific explanation against a host of many and quite possibly an infinite number of other explanations. So the only way that we can compare the effectiveness of theism as an explanation of the universe to the effectiveness of atheism to that end is to compare it to the collective of all atheist explanations, both those that have been put forth and those that could have been put forth, but as of yet have not been.
Then I don't believe any atheist that I've ever seen debate with you has ever accepted a debate under that kind of framework. The framework is never that
Scott,
atheism is a better explanation. It's that your theism is not a sufficient explanation.
That is generally the position in much of the atheist community, as I have seen. So it makes sense that the prominent voices of the atheist community would not accept that framework. But clearly, as we are about to see, Dr. Turek has a different understanding of this.
You'll have to talk to them, Scott, because they agreed every time. Christopher Hitchens.
You guys should check out the videos on YouTube.
Yes,
That's not
Michael
what happened.
Shermer.
Clearly, it seems that Scott and Dr. Turek have different understandings of what the atheist debaters were agreeing to. The question is, can we resolve which one is expressing the accurate understanding and which one is expressing a misunderstanding? I will see if I can resolve this in part 2 of this response, which you can find a link to in this video's YouTube video description area. Until then, I hope that you enjoyed this part of the response. Please click the like button and leave your comment in the comments area below. Also, share this video with others. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and ring the bell. And until next time, see ya!